What's up, guys? This is Nick with Real Top Marketing. Today I'm going to take you through what I like to call the fight of the century, the big match. And this is not Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. This isn't McGregor versus Mayweather. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about two groups that are far more powerful than these guys. Okay, we're going to talk about Google versus Facebook. Okay, Google versus Facebook. So a lot of times we get people that reach out to us and they're new to marketing. Okay, and they're trying to figure out where they should start. Hey Nick, should I go to Facebook? Should I run social media ads? Should I run Google ads? Where do I start? Should I be doing both? Which one is better? So let's break that down for you. So I'm going to give you a quick little comparison, and then we're going to talk about which one of these you should approach first. Okay. So the first is, intention. Okay. Let's talk about how we're getting in front of these people. So with Google, what you have is people are searching for what you have to offer. Okay, they're searching, they're motivated. Okay, you have very high intention click. Okay, when they're clicking on your ad, typically they're looking for what you have to offer. You have someone that's very motivated. They're in the market, and not just you think you're in the market. They're in the market. You're already part of that sales process with them, right? They're looking for it. They're shopping for it. And that's why they're on a Google search, okay? Whereas Facebook, what you have is disruptive marketing, okay? Disruptive marketing meaning, the person you're targeting on Facebook, they could very well be the perfect candidate for what you have to offer, but in that moment, they weren't looking for it. They might have been looking for it earlier in the day. They might have been looking for it weeks ago. They might fit the profile of someone that would be looking for it. You sell baseball gloves and they're into baseball. We get it. But even so, in that moment, you are disturbing them. They're on Facebook. They're watching their cat videos. Okay, they're reading their memes, and everyone's on there with all their emotions, and they're replying, and it's getting heated. And usually they're doing this in a strange place, like they're on the toilet. They're checking their social media. By the way, the majority of people, that's where they're checking their social media. And you're all of a sudden disturbing them, okay? So the motivation is far less, okay? And that's a very important distinction between the two, okay? The second thing is, because that motivation is not as high, you're gonna find if you're in like a service business, for example, the people that inquire, you're going to have a far lower closing percentage on those Facebook inquiries. So if you generated 100 inquiries for your business, whatever that business is, let's say you're a plumber, for example, okay, you might see a closing percentage on those 100 inquiries of 5%, okay? But because, on Google, because, those people have a higher intention, they're looking for what you have to offer, you could see this number triple, 15%, 20, 30, whatever it's going to be. So you're going to see a far higher closing percentage. And closing percentages are important for your business, okay? It's all about efficiency in your business. So not only do you want to have, inexpensive leads and you want to have a low cost per lead in your business, but you also want to be able to convert those leads as well. And that's what's going to equate to that cost per acquisition, and that model has to fit. It's not just your marketing costs. You got to take into account the sales costs for converting that business. Okay. Also, what you'll find is when you're giving your team a lead that's getting them a higher closing percentage, you're going to find more satisfied salespeople working for you. If you're a one-man band at your business and you're doing all the sales or taking in all the clients, you're going to be pretty happy to have a higher closing percentage because you're going to be far more efficient and you can take care of that next customer, okay? The next thing, the sales cycle. I think a lot of people forget about this, and this is one of my pet peeves in business, okay? The sales cycle. So as a result of this high intention for Google, you're going to have a faster sales cycle. So let's say you're in a business that when you get that first initial phone call, or that first initial lead from Google, it takes you on average 48 hours to close that deal and get money in the door, okay? What you're gonna find, okay, Facebook, because it's disruptive marketing, there's lower motivation, okay, you're gonna find that the sales cycle is far longer, okay? They might not have necessarily been interested in what you had to offer in that moment, or they weren't in the market for it yet. but they will be 2, 3, 4 weeks from now. I know personally, when I've run Google campaigns versus Facebook campaigns, we're converting 80% of the leads from Google campaigns within like 3 days, okay? Now to convert 80% of the 5% of the leads we've converted from Facebook campaigns, it can take us almost a month. Why? Because they're not ready for it. So again, it is a less efficient type of lead for your business. And by the way, I'm strictly talking here about service businesses where you have to sell something maybe over the phone, you got to get them in the door, and you got to lock down business. This isn't really necessarily the e-commerce space here, okay? The next thing, okay, costs. Okay, you're going to find that Google knows it's giving you a better click, right? Google knows this. It's going to charge you a higher premium. People want these high intention people with higher closing percentages and faster sales cycles. So what you'll find is your cost per click is going to be dramatically higher than your cost per click in a Facebook campaign. Usually it's 50% or more. I've seen 2x, 3x, 4, 5, 10x versus a click on Facebook. Now, is it worth it? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so again, we got higher costs with Google, we got far lower costs with Facebook. So that, I guess, is one of the cons with Google, okay? But again, business is very much about efficiency, okay? You're gonna find overall that your leads, okay, or your traffic from Google are far more efficient, okay? We found, or we had an example in the past where we had a client that they weren't getting a ton of leads from Google. And then we went to Facebook. We were able to get in front of a big marketplace there, a bigger pool of people very quickly, very inexpensively, and ultimately we brought in a ton of leads very quickly. It was insanity. Here's the problem. That business owner, he was a one-man band. All of a sudden, it broke his business. He couldn't keep up. Now keep in mind too, the sales cycle was longer on this business. The sales cycle was longer on this Facebook business, and the closing percentage was lower. So even though he was super busy getting all these inexpensive leads, he actually wasn't bringing money in the door. Okay, he was sending money out into Facebook. So what we did with that customer is we quickly shut off his Facebook campaigns. Okay, and what we did is we reallocated that budget back into Google. Even though we had a higher cost per click, and even though our cost per lead was dramatically higher, this was far more efficient, okay? So here's what I would say, okay? When you're looking at marketing, don't just look at the cost per click and your cost per lead, okay? If you're getting into the digital space, you probably want to look at strictly a Google search campaign first. It's low-hanging fruit. You're going to get high-intention people. You don't have to have the best sales team ever. You don't have to have an insane amount of follow-up. You don't need to have crazy, weird, quirky funnels and email drip campaigns. I would say a Google search lead is as similar to a referral as it's going to be. For you guys that are running really simple referral-based businesses, you'll find 75% of the inquiries you get turn into clients all day long. It's unbelievable, right? It's like shooting fish in a barrel. I would say second to that is always going to be Google, and actually specifically Google search, not display. Okay, so I would say number one, lock down your referral marketing system. Number two, go into Google search, okay? Once you've tapped out Google search, meaning you're getting the maximum number of clients from Google search at the cost per acquisition that keeps you profitable, in the locations that you can do business in the time frame that you can answer the phone and do business in. Once you've tapped that out, because by the way, you can tap it out, okay? It does happen. There are a limited number of searches for maybe what you have to offer. Then I would explore going into Facebook as a platform to generate your leads, but understanding that the closing percentages are going to be a little different. You might have to retool your sales team or hire up a little bit to keep up with the volume and do the more follow-up. You might need to create some better email follow-up, automatic drip campaigns. You're going to have to be a more sophisticated sales prospector, or you're going to have to put in place amazing technology, amazing click funnels that can take in that lead, work those leads for you in a somewhat automated way, and then produce out for you, just phone calls. Okay, that's a possibility as well. So in terms of the fight of the century, guys, who's going to win? Well, all day long, for me, it's going to be Google.